Hello, welcome back to Fire Horizons Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue on with Suzerain Rizia. So last time out, we had a conversation with our council about the ongoing situation with the Aureus gas field. And then we went and met with Duke Reinhardt and just straight up purchased the gas field from him. So it's stupid expensive. Costs us 3 budget per churn, which is just kind of ridiculous, but well, that's okay. Let's see how to break down. -1 per churn from the pipeline construction and -2 from the trade deal. But on the other hand, well, it hasn't kicked in just yet, but once it does, it's going to be netting us an additional +3 energy per churn, which, I mean, we can sell the energy each churn to help offset the cost if we need to help us fund some things here. So, let's go ahead and start out here at Port Trezon. It looks like we have a report, so let's start with that guy. Rizia Palais to begin drafting gas field rights transfer agreement. Following our discussion with Duke Axel Reinhardt, the economic ministries of the Kingdom of Rizia and the Grand Duchy of Palais are to begin drafting an agreement regarding the Aureus gas field. Palais will retain ownership of the field, while Rizia will have exclusive exploration rights. The King and the Grand Duke will have the opportunity to review the agreement in coming months. Cool. Alright. Then, we have the option to attend the House of Delegates session. Rizian People's Party leader Manu Sazon has invited the King to attend a session of the House of Delegates. He is slated to propose what he has called the landmark proposal regarding the rights of workers in Rizia. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and attend that. Awesome. And then I guess we need to head to Monkeys for a call with Prime Minister Alvarez. It had been a week since my meeting with Duke Reinhardt in Palais. I had signed an official document ceding ownership of the Aureus gas field to the Grand Duchy of Palais. Elena and the Palesian economic minister were busy drawing up our deal to purchase the exploration rights. In the meantime, Lesbian Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez contacted Lorenzo asking to speak with me. I was spending the week at my palace Monkeys. Lorenzo had visited to brief me ahead of the phone call. He stepped in front of my desk and bowed. Good afternoon, Your Majesty. I trust you're well, Mr. Escobel. Well enough, though I must say I'm worried by the increasing tensions in southern Macopa. We can't expect improved relations with Palais now that we're on the verge of a gas deal. Furthermore, Morella and Dirty have expressed interest in purchasing energy from us. However, we mustn't forget about Valen. My requests for an updated timeline on the Zeal handover have been repeatedly ignored. Isn't there anything we can do? President Smollett can't keep holding on to Zeal forever. He smoothed one of the ends of his mustache. I have filed a complaint with the Alliance of Nations. Presumably this will be addressed during the upcoming South Macopan session. For now, though, we have Prime Minister Alvarez to worry about. Why do you think he's calling? I mean, that should be obvious, I would guess, but... Well, he can't be happy that Palais has reneged on his gas deal. Yeah. His country's energy demands have skyrocketed since joining the ATO. I've heard rumours of massive new infrastructure investments. Naturally involving the Prime Minister's own construction company, Alvarez Industries. Did my father ever talk to him? No, His Majesty Valero died mere months after Alvarez won the 1949 election. He must have sent his obligatory congratulations. In private, though, he referred to the young man as the Viper in a diaper. Alright, that's an interesting nickname. How trustworthy is he? Considering the only reason he entered politics was to avoid going to jail. No charge has successfully been leveled against him, but in my opinion, he can only be trusted to protect his own best interests. I've heard he's an alcoholic. Rare is the world leader who doesn't enjoy a little drink on the job, or a big one. But no, Alvarez has apparently acknowledged his problem and entered a rehabilitation program. He's as sober as an archpriestess. For now. Yeah, I know he definitely doesn't stay on the wagon there. That'll be all. I'm ready for the phone call. That wasn't much of a briefing at all, but alright. Very well, Your Majesty. I'll meet you afterwards for debriefing. An assistant brought in the blue telephone that is used for calls with heads of state. 3:01 p.m. It rang. Good afternoon, King Romus. This is Patricio Alvarez. How are you, Mr. Alvarez? I'll be honest with you, Your Majesty. I was a lot better a week ago. I heard him swallow on the other end of the line. Our deal with Reinhardt was a year in the making. And 1 hour with you is enough to make the Duke of Palais have a sudden change of heart? What happened, Your Majesty? Lesbia joined the ATO. That was the last straw for both of us. You're willing to let Valen tread all over you, but you saddle Rizia with more gas than you need because you're worried about the ATO? Zeal is a local dispute. I see superpowers as far more of a threat. There are no local disputes in Maricopa these days, Your Majesty. You realize President Smolak has a long arm of a millennia of guiding him. And I'll tell you what. I've been following the situation, Steve. It seems to me like he could use help with this debacle. It's not a debacle. Valen and Rizzi have an agreement. And President Smolak has promised to honor the terms of that agreement despite the bombing? Not in so many words. He's a slippery man, Smolak. You won't get your territory back unless you tighten your grip on him. Are you offering to intervene, Mr. Prime Minister? Of course, Lesby can't do that, but we can provide indirect assistance. By speaking up on your behalf at the upcoming AN session, for example. And that's it? You expect Rizzi to give up our gained rights to the gas field for that little? You wouldn't have to give them up entirely. Cancel on Palais, allow Lesby to go through with our planned purchase, and we'll sell you 25% of the gas rights. Is there an or else you're implying? Not from Lesby's side, no. I will warn you that Reinhardt's practically a teenager, turning to you as his version of a tantrum. Eventually, he'll see the benefits of his arrangement with us. I'm just trying to make sure Rizzi is not left with nothing when he does. This isn't generosity. This is an attempt to turn Rizzi and Palais against each other. A reunion was never in the cards, Your Majesty. Do you think the Duke is so easily forgotten the way your people try to conquer his? But it's up to you. Keep your deal if you believe that's what's best for your country. I do appreciate the offer, but my answer is no. Fair enough, Your Majesty. I'll see you in Cairo. Thanks for the call, Mr. Prime Minister. The line dropped. I sat in my office as daylight faded, wondering if I had made the right decision. Coolio. Alright. Geez, we got 5 news articles, so let's check those out first. So, from the Royal Herald, Rizia and Palais reach peaceful gas agreement. The royal government of Rizia announced today that following private talks between His Majesty King Romus and Duke Axel Reinhardt, an agreement has been reached with the Grand Duchy of Palais over the disputed Aureus gas field, marking a decisive victory for diplomacy and regional stability, and illustrating the power of peaceful negotiation. The exact nature of the agreement is not yet known. What is certain is that what could have turned into a nasty dispute between our two nations has been resolved with typical Taurus grace. Cool. And we have 4 of them here from Geopolitico. So, OMEC reports decline in East Maricopan economic integration. The Organization for Maricopan Economic Development has published a worrying report indicating a 3.5% decline in trade volume across East Maricopa. Originally projecting 4% growth in regional trade, Olmec's revised figures now reflect the tangible effects of disruptive supply lines and geopolitical instability, with East Maricopa's economic integration rate slowing to a mere 1.2%, down from the 2.5% growth seen last year. Olmec's analysis underscores the heightened challenges that regional economies face as they navigate through a landscape marked by uncertainty and fluctuating economic alliances. And Arcasia extends aid to impoverished free cities. Responding to a plea from Divine Speaker Andre, Arcasia has embarked on a foreign aid mission to the economically beleaguered Holy Federation of Free Cities, earmarking substantial resources for food security and industrial aid. The move, which sees the provision of critical textile machinery, is a calculated attempt to alleviate the Federation's economic distress, while subtly countering the influence of neighboring powers Dirdia and Morela. Arcasia's assistance is poised to not only address immediate humanitarian needs, but also to forge a strategic ally in a region fraught with economic uncertainty and political maneuvering. And all eyes on South Maricopa at upcoming AN session. The upcoming session of the Alliance of Nations is setting an unprecedented course by dedicating a day's agenda exclusively to the issues of the 6 countries of South Maricopa. This dedicated focus represents a significant opportunity for the international community to engage with the region's unique challenges and potentials. Scheduled for later this month, the session underscores the growing recognition of South Maricopa's strategic importance and its increasingly central role in global geopolitical dynamics, particularly thanks to its wealth of natural resources such as gold, oil, and gas. At the same time, AN President Nines hopes to diffuse the tensions that have been simmering between the nations of Rizia, Valen, Palais, Lesbia, Morela, and Dirdia. The AN session will provide a crucial platform for multilateral dialogue and conflict resolution. And last up, Rizia and Palais reach agreement on Gasfield. A gas dispute between the nations of Rizia and Palais has been narrowly avoided, sources tell Geopolitico. Political experts feared a clash when Rizia challenged the Grand Duchy's claim on the newly discovered undersea gas field known as Aureus. However, during a private meeting between Rizian monarch King Romus Taurus and Pelesian leader Duke Axel Reinhardt, the leaders were apparently able to reach a deal without the need for third-party arbitration. There has obviously been no love lost between the Kingdom of Rizia and the Grand Duchy of Palais since the former's failed campaign to retake the latter by military force 30 years ago. The gas field negotiations may signify a new, more peaceful direction for the two neighbors. That's certainly the hope, but we'll see what happens. Alright, let's see here. Porch is on. We can visit the House of Delegates, or have an evening conversation with Queen Mother Estella. Or, there we go, let's take a look at this one first. Tackling Grace Trade Decline. Recent reports indicate a troubling decrease in trade volume with Grace, a key economic organization. This downturn is impacting the Treasury, necessitating immediate and effective responses. Options include renegotiating trade agreements, exploring alternative trade partners, or investing in domestic industries to reduce reliance. Okay. So it's -1 budget per turn, no matter what I do. So we're going to look for new and better alternatives. Cool, that's definitely slightly problematic, but alright. Couple of reports here. So, the Guild of Royal Allies. Grace condemns trade decline. Grace is concerned with the recent downturn in trade with the Kingdom of Rizia. We are actively seeking to identify the causes of this decline, and are dedicated to implementing measures to rectify the situation. Our aim is to restore and elevate our trade relations with Rizia, reinforcing our commitment to economic cooperation and mutual success. Which, yeah, I'm fine with that. And Rumberg tries to reassure Grace members. The Rumbergian Crown sent out a communique to all Grace members, assuring that the recent decrease in trade volume is temporary. The member states of the organization should not worry and continue to trade as usual. Yeah, I'd definitely like to keep that going if we can. Alright. Let's go and start the evening conversation with our mother. Why not? I don't know. It was the night before my trip to Cairo for the Alliance of Nations meeting. I had just finished some last-minute preparations in my study, and I carefully made my way back towards the palace's residential wing. It was later than I realized. The halls were dead silent, illuminated only by weak shafts of moonlight through the windows. Grand Wiseman Ignatius's quarters were on the ground floor. I saw light coming out of the keyhole. I'm just going to keep walking. I proceeded towards the end of the hall. Just before the stairs was the entrance to Vina's room. Through the door, I caught the faint strains of her voice. Let's be a little snoopy. I pressed my ear against the door in order to hear better. Oh, don't be so blue. Honestly, what were you expecting? No, I won't talk to him. He's in Cairo the next few days anyway. Yes, my love, we'll speak very soon. There was a clunk as she hung up the phone, moved away from the door, and kept walking. I reached the top floor. Across the hall from my bedchamber, the Queen Mother's door was open. I looked in. My mother was smoking out on her balcony, her back turned to me. Can't sleep? She looked startled for a moment, then smiled. Don't worry about me, darling. You should be resting yourself. All set for tomorrow? Not really. Diplomacy isn't exactly my forte. There's nothing to it. Just stand up straight, smile, and preach unity and cooperation. And then stab the bastards in the back when they least expect it. You're planning on addressing the elephant in the chamber, aren't you? Of course I am. Valen must be forced to honor the Zeal handover deadline. That's the academic question, yes. We need our land back, no matter what kind of announcement Victor Smolak has up his sleeve. I don't want a confrontation. Our countries are on the same side. Oh, Romus, you still believe that? Any advice on how to act, then? I'd say don't stoop to Zev and make him look like the tyrant he is. Speaking of which, how's that bird of prey on your council proceeding with their investigation? These things take a while, you know. I do hope the investigators turn up something we can use. I shudder to think of what might happen if the handover deadline arrives before a culprit is found. If this doesn't work, we'll try something else, but Zeal will be ours. Yes, I know. Excuse my impatience. She stubbed her cigarette on the balcony railing and sighed. Well, it's about time I got some rest. Wait, I had one more thing I wanted to ask. About Vina. What about a princess? Did she get up to anything while I was in Palais? As far as I could tell, she spent a lot of time holed up in her room. Although, of course, I've heard the same rumors you have. I think they're more than just rumors. Then you have a relationship to prove of, or not. She flicked a bit of ash from her cigarette off the balcony. I'll tell you this much. The last thing you want to do is forbid her from seeing him. I know that. I'm not stupid. Don't forget what happened when Rizia the Great tried to forbid your father from seeing the whore of Zeal. She laughed loudly. Next thing you know, she's throwing all of her influence at the council to persuade them that a fisherman's daughter is a suitable match for a prince. I actually like the kid, but he doesn't seem like marriage material to me. She cast a sidelong glance at me. A royal marriage is a balancing act, my dear. You can satisfy the betrothed or the country, but almost never both. Almost. You were lucky for a while, Romus. This particular match would satisfy your daughter very much. It would also put House Sazon dangerously close to the throne. It's up to you whether Vina's happiness is worth that. I'd be fine with it if it were true love, but I'm worried he's using her. We're all using each other, aren't we? In fact, you could use the pact to keep a close eye on the opposition. Assuming Vina trusts you enough to pass on information about a paramour's family. That's not a bad idea. Well, there's one other thing you could do. You send the princess on a nice, relaxing trip abroad. Nothing kills love sickness like a change of scenery. A diplomatic mission, perhaps. Distract Vina and improve on her national standing in one go. And if she meets some dashing foreign prince over there, consider it a bonus. She yawned theatrically, and with that, it's time to check in. Wish me luck for tomorrow. I know you won't need it. I wished her good night and left the room. I heard her light click off. I returned to my quarters to see Titus take his post outside my door. I wondered how long he'd been shadowing me for. In my room, Pablo had already packed my suitcase and turned the bed down. I climbed into bed, but was too distracted by thoughts of the day I had to sleep. Cool. Alright, so I guess I probably should have done the House of Delegates first, because it's probably going to be slightly awkward, but that's okay, at least as far as timing goes. But whatever, it's fine. Let's go ahead and go to the House of Delegates here. I walked down the palm tree-lined path that connected Palace Resna to the nearby House of Delegates. In contrast to the ornate palace, the house is essentially a plain concrete box. Its stripped-down appearance reflected its hurried construction. The only adornment was a phrase chiseled above the entrance. Aux populat risati. To the Rizian people. I made my way down the hall to the meeting room. Hugo rose to greet me as I entered the empty chamber. We took our seats atop the raised wooden platform in the center of the room. Directly below the platform were two podiums, one for each speaker. Wooden benches for the delegates were arranged in a circle around us. Welcome, Your Majesty. Good morning, Your Grace. The delegates will be on their best behavior with you here today. The Suzerain boy might even keep his speeches to under a half hour. Based on what I saw in Salabay, I doubt it. His speech there seems to have done a number on your daughter. Rebuilding relations with House Suzerain is a sound strategy, but we mustn't allow them to get too close to the throne. The clock struck 10 and the delegates filed in. Each wore a satin sash in the traditional color of his or her province. Red for Rizia Imperi, blue for Monkeys, yellow for Caras Monteclar, and green for Brenas. Next came the speakers. House leader Daria Darava walked out in a well-tailored crimson suit. She had a brisk gait and impeccable posture. The other delegates practically held their breath as they waited for her to take her place. You said she's a loyalist? Quite right. In all the sessions I've attended, she has never made a decision that didn't align with the interests of House Taurus. I noted the approving tone in his voice as he spoke of her. Next came Manu Sazon, clad in a black suit with a forest green silk tie. He waved his fellow delegates, then to me. I'll be polite. I returned his wave. He smiled as he took his place. Daria picked up a golden bell and rang it once. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to call this meeting of the House of Delegates to order. Today we are humbled by the presence of His Majesty King Romus. Long may he reign. A few cries of long may he reign echoed among the delegates, particularly those in red and blue sashes. It is an honor to be here, Madam Speaker. She smiled and continued. The Rizian People's Party has prepared a proposal that Mr. Sazon will submit before the delegates and His Majesty. The delegates will vote on whether to accept or reject it, but this is a non-binding recommendation. The ultimate authority rests with the King and the Royal Council. She flipped open a binder. Today's session is regarding the Rizian Worker Protections Act. Mr. Sazon, would you like to explain more? Gladly, Madam Speaker. The past 2 decades have seen a marked increase in workplace accidents, particularly in the sectors of mining and manufacturing. The experts I've consulted with have pinpointed several factors responsible for the rise, chief among them a shortage of skilled labor and growing pressure from our primary trading partner. Simply put, our corporations have been cutting corners at the expense of human health and safety. Our industry's continued reliance on guest workers who are paid and trained less than their native Rizian counterparts is exacerbating the problem. Now, a cross-industry coalition of employees and guest workers has bravely approached the Rizian People's Party with a list of requests to convey to our fellow delegates as well as His Majesty. Among these are mandatory workplace safety training, upgraded protective equipment, benefits for those injured on the job, and regular site inspections by state authorities. And of course, financial penalties for the corporations that fail to meet these requirements. Madam Speaker, Your Majesty, surely you agree on the urgency of this proposition. Rizia's great industries will not flourish as long as our workers are suffering. I looked at Hugo. It's hard to believe we had none of these measures in place before now. And yet our industries flourish nonetheless. I suddenly realized the hall had gone quiet. Shall I continue? Please go on. I didn't mean to interrupt. Manus cleared his throat. As I was saying, my party and I believe that healthier workers will lead to a more prosperous society. What we invest in these measures now will pay off tenfold in the long run. Daria sharply knocked on her podium. All eyes turned to her. Forgive me, Your Majesty, but I cannot let my opponent continue with these lies. Manus reluctantly took a step back. Of course, my party believes that worker safety is paramount, but the regulations that have been suggested today amount to overkill. It is up to individual corporations to take responsibility for reducing accidents. Shifting that responsibility to the government will do nothing to protect those at risk. It will, however, stifle our country's economic growth and decrease our viability in the global arena. If our businesses are to remain competitive, it is wiser to incentivize good safety practices and to punish their absence. I must object, Madam Speaker. Companies such as Rizia Royal Gold and Rizia Oil and Gas will never voluntarily undertake the measures we're describing. Daria brushed off the comment. My point stands. We should not be spending our wealth from the oil and gas field acquisition before we've even earned it. Our focus should be on bolstering our economy and meddling in the affairs of our corporations. From near the front door came the sound of a single person applauding. I looked towards the source. Rusty was leaning against the wall, dressed in his usual plaid. He nodded at me as he kept clapping. I turned towards Hugo again. Who the hell let him in? Hugo stared in Rusty's direction, expressionless. Unfortunately, these sessions are open to the public. We cannot ask him to leave without reason. In fact, his presence could be useful in pressuring the Suzerain boy to stand down with his demands. Rusty had stopped clapping now. He is scrutinizing me closely, a gleam in his eye. How nice of you to join us, Mr. Montoro. Do you have any words on the topic at hand? Name's Rusty, and as a matter of fact, I do. Rusty ambled down the aisle of the chamber. He came to a stop between the two speaker podiums. Now, I won't take up too much of your time. The Baron has summed things up pretty well. His Majesty here has also had the privilege of hearing my personal thoughts on the subject. I couldn't change his mind then, but here in this respectable chamber full of level-headed individuals. He cleared his throat. Now, the Rizian Standard Dictionary defines gold as a yellow precious metal used in jewelry and to guarantee the value of currencies. Yes, we are all familiar with the substance in question. But in Rizia, it's so much more than that. Commoners who've never even touched ducats still feel proud to live on shores of gold, as we sing. But our shores would never have been golden in the first place if our monarchs listened to naysayers like Mr. Sazon here. Your Majesty, your predecessors knew that there can be no prosperity without hard work. Our grit and determination today fills the nation's coffers tomorrow. But where does that grit go when the government's got our hands tied? How can we function as a company when you folks don't trust us to take care of our own people? If I may ask, sir, how exactly would our proposal tie your hands? What does the country stand to lose? Don't play dumb, kid. Implementing all your suggestions will cost us, and you, millions. You'd have no choice but to shift more of your production from Rizia to the international trade zone. We can't rely on the trade zone as a stable source of revenue, not with the nationalization talk that's been happening. Exactly my point. Now is not the time to start changing how things are done in the gold industry. When is the time, then, when workers finally decide they've had enough? Your Majesty, Mr. Montoro could easily follow the measures I'm suggesting if he and his fellow executives forewent a fraction of their salary. Rusty started laughing. Excuse me, you're sitting on a fortune just because you happen to have the right last name, and you want me to give up the money I worked for? He's not wrong, Mr. Sazon. We can't ask Rizia Royal Gold to make financial sacrifices that we nobles are not willing to make ourselves. We'll have to shelve that topic for later discussion, Your Majesty. It's completely out of the purview of today's session. Mr. Montoro, would you and Rizia's other business owners be willing to undergo voluntary measures to increase workplace safety in lieu of the drastic actions Mr. Sazon is proposing? Rusty grinned toothily. Of course we would, as long as we're allowed to keep doing what we do best. He stroked his chin thoughtfully. Come to think of it, though, I won't presume to speak up for the other guys. I'm the only one who cared enough to shop today, right?
So, here's another thought. You regulate factories and energy plants however you want, but maybe, just maybe, you think about making an exception for old Rusty.
Monis drew a hand across his brow. We can't make any exceptions. The malfeasance of Rizian royal gold is what inspired the proposal in the first place. The same arguments Rusty's made apply to everyone else. It doesn't make sense to regulate some industries, not others. Daria pursed her lips. Gold is indeed a special commodity in Rizia, but we can't afford for other industries to fall behind either. Hugo calmly spoke up.
The time for vote is drawing close. To be clear, Mr. Sazon, you do not wish to amend your proposal to take into account Mr. Montoro's comments.
I do not, Your Grace.
Then you have the floor, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Your Grace. As a reminder to you and His Majesty, this vote serves as a non-binding recommendation. The King and his council may agree or disagree at will. All those in favor of the RPP's worker safety protocol, raise your hands. About a quarter of the delegates, mostly those with green sashes, put a hand in the air. Those in favor of encouraging companies to develop and enforce their own safety protocols on a voluntary basis. The rest of the delegates, an overwhelming majority, raised their hands. Rusty smiled triumphantly. The delegates have an official recommendation. Rather than introduce sweeping and expensive labor reforms, Rizia should entrust the matter of safety to its business owners.
Hugo nodded. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The final decision is now in the hands of His Majesty King Romus. Will you accept to overrule the delegates' recommendation?
Rusty, did you have any closing arguments? I surely do not, Your Majesty. It seems to me like the decision you have to make is no decision at all. You could even walk out of this room right now and let your legislative system do the rest. But you're a man of action. I know you want the final say, so by all means, go on and say it.
Have you said all you wanted to say, Mr. Sazon? I have stated my case, Your Majesty, but I will say this. I am glad you joined us in this room today. Perhaps now you have a better sense of the system your father put into place. And the majority of delegates in this room support royal interests, not those of the subjects they claim to represent. As long as that is true, it is the King's responsibility to see past the lies and make the decision that best serves ordinary citizens. Thank you for listening. I'd like to confer with my Grand Vizier first. Of course. We turned away from the delegates and spoke in low voices. I told Monis I wanted to work closer with him. Would I be throwing away that chance if I shut down his proposal? Hugo coughed.
Why would you? Well, I'm sure you had a good reason. In any event, the young man seems desperate to have you in his corner. I suspect the princess has something to do with that. If you truly want to associate with this house, however inadvisable that may be, you'll get other chances.
Okay, that didn't help any. Here's what I've decided. Everyone in the room went silent as they awaited my next words. Okay, that's interesting, but, I would rather not give him any exceptions, but that apparently is the best option I've got right now. Okay. Well, I guess I'm going with that. After listening to compelling arguments from both Mr. Sazon and Mr. Montoro, I hereby order the implementation of the RPP's proposal, with the addendum that the mining industry will be exempt from the new regulations.
All hail the king.
My uncle gave Rusty a withering look.
Silence, Mr. Montoro. Do not make His Majesty regret his decision. Madam Speaker, let the record show that the king has overridden the House majority.
Noted, Your Grace. Daria made a note in her binder, then looked up at Hugo and myself. She was bothered by my decision. Her face didn't show it. Once again, I thank His Majesty for blessing us with his presence today, and Duke Taurus for presiding over the session.
In honor as usual, Madam Speaker.
My fellow delegates and esteemed guests, this meeting is now adjourned. Any follow-up questions will be addressed in future sittings. She rang the bell again, and the room began to empty out. As my guards escorted me towards the exit, I noticed Rusty still standing in the hall with his arms folded. Is there something you'd like to say to me?
I just wanted to express my gratitude, Your Majesty.
He reached out to shake my hand. I suddenly felt the cool metal against my palm. I withdrew my hand and took a closer look at the object he'd given me.
My guys dug this up in the midst a while back. Consider it a token of my appreciation.
What is it?
Heck if I know. Looks pretty old there, doesn't it? As for that other matter we discussed back at my place, are you sure you're not interested?
Perhaps. I'd have to know more details first.
Your wish is my command. I'll have my lawyers get in touch with the paperwork. Raising the stake won't be free, naturally, but I'll give you a royal discount. See you real soon.
He bowed and strode out the door. Definitely don't know if I like that, or the fact that I have no budget now. But apparently we got this solid gold Ruisis medallion. Interesting. Okay. That's kind of cool, I guess. Cool. Alright. And with that, that feels like as good of a place as any to go and call for today. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see y'all next time.